How creepy was it when I did it?
Pretty creepy.
Guys, oh my god! A wild game has appeared.
Oh no!
And I think everybody kind of knows at this point
Yes.
what we're talking about. We said it multiple times, and people have been asking about it for the past few weeks.
Yeah.
Not surprising. It came out of nowhere.
Not taking calls right now, guys.
You feel he has answers? For both of us.
Precious. It showed us. It showed us treasures of the Bright Master.
No more riddles.
Prince rules to serve the Bright Master.
I do not trust him. Do not wish to know who I am.
We will remember Precious. We will meet him.
You remember? A few broken images, yes. Now I wish that I didn't. Your family. Perhaps that pain is what connects us. Why do we chase these dreams? They offer no answers, only more questions. These are not mere dreams. With each vision, my power grows stronger. Only you could accomplish such art. Celebrate Greatest smith in the Second Age. I heard the stories, but I remember my name now. I shaped the history of Middle-earth. I crafted the rings of power. Your power penetrates the mind, like that of the evil one. My power gives the gateway to defeating the Dark Lord. Do not seek vengeance. This is means an army Italian, one for us.
What's funny about that trailer at the end is you have the one thing from IGN, like a blast of play. It's like, okay, someone liked this. And then it's like a couple other things come up, and you're like, all right, a few people. Then all of a sudden it fills up. And that's kind of like how it was. It was one of those games, especially for me, even up to like last week or the week before, I had no desire to play it. I didn't expect anything from it. And for a few reasons. One, just because I'm being a little bit stubborn in what it's about, I guess. But overall, just because I didn't think it had a lot of potential. I thought it was just, Assassin's Creed with a special Lord of the Rings skin on it. But now, especially the more I looked into it and the more I've seen from it and read about it, it's actually apparently pretty damn in depth.
Somehow it stayed under the radar, even though, as we saw, it had 45 nominations during
Right.
E3. And it showed a lot of promise, but still, it kind of came off as like a dark horse. And everybody's surprised at the review scores, which are really, really good, actually.
Right. It's Shadow of Mordor.
Yes.
The game is set in the Tolkien world.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the canon storyline. They did create and change around a few things, and that's actually one of the reasons why I wasn't really into it. First, I hate when people change canon.
I'll say right now Tolkien's rolling in his grave.
I know, I agree. However, looking into it, it's actually not bad. Like,
supposedly they're pulling a lot from...
They are actually working with, they're working with not only Peter Jackson, but like people that, have a lot of...
Andy Serkis?
Yeah.
They got Andy Serkis on board, as we heard.
Right.
To play devil's advocate here, Tolkien's
Thank you for the
son
Twitch heart.
didn't even want
Peter
Jackson to make the movies.
Yeah.
They never
No,
wanted
I
the
agree.
movies to be made. So.
No, I understand that, although, that's kind of like Alan Moore not wanting to watch them to me, maybe.
What's the one other book in the Lord of the Rings series, though? Not The Hobbit. Not The Hobbit.
The
last
giant one.
Yeah.
Fallen.
No.
I know the one
Nice
you're
try.
talking about. It basically talks about everything.
That's what this pulls a lot from, supposedly.
Right, and I can't remember what it was, and I can't remember the name of it, but yeah. It's basically like a bestiary, almost in a way. It's like a novelistic bestiary, essentially what it is. But anyway, so the game, it's a newly made character named Talion. He's a ranger of Gondor, much like Aragorn. And at the beginning of the game, after a few tutorials, he's actually killed, along with his wife and child, right in front of you. But on his way to the afterlife, did they call it the afterlife? They call it something else, right?
They call it Into the West.
Into the West, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay. So before heading into the West, he stopped and actually meets with what's his name? Celebrimbor, who in the books actually was the guy who created the original rings.
Okay.
So he was tortured by Sauron and eventually made into a wraith. However, in the game, he doesn't really know too much about his origins. So he actually meets up with Talion, and they actually combine forces. You saw them talking in the game. He was the ghost figure.
Yeah.
So he actually brings a few cool features and abilities to him. Did you want to read something?
Oh, yeah, sure, if you want me to.
Yeah, just go on to the main story, I guess.
The main story will take place between the events of The Hobbit and Fellowship, and as we saw in the trailer, really cool, they've got Gollum as one of the big characters in this one, and
Yes,
they
he's
have
a big
Andy
one.
Serkis
Yes.
as a voice, which is always phenomenal. It's always great to have Andy Serkis on board, because even when it was Heavenly Sword, the guy just like, he puts so much heart and soul into every performance, and also helps out a lot with motion capture, which I bet this game has a lot of.
Right, Andy Serkis is phenomenal as far
Yeah,
as that goes.
so you're going to connect and follow the storyline for Gollum along with certain characters called Ratbag and Hergon. Now, I think those are more like villains, correct?
Yes and no.
They're like orc, goblin type creatures, right?
Yeah.
And the main story will lead you to Sauron's three right-hand servants. The first one being the Tower, the most intense both in character and appearance of the servants. Torturer for Sauron, a big hulking black. How do you say this last word here?
Numenorian.
Okay.
A Numenorian.
Numenorian represents the evil of
So
Sauron.
before you continue, all three of the right-hand servants are actually supposed to represent something of Sauron.
Okay.
Because you will never actually fight Sauron. As far as I know, you will never really fight Sauron.
Not surprised.
You'll fight his essence as being. And also, the Tower was actually referenced in Tolkien's books as well. Pretty much, there's only a few made-up characters in this game, but one of them.
Controller.
Oh, I thought you were pointing at our Sauron.
Oh, yeah. But one of them being, the Tower. He was actually the guy that tortured Gollum, supposedly.
Okay.
So you might see that story interconnect as well.
After that, we've got the Hammer. A man corrupted by a need to fit in was given a special hammer as a gift by Sauron, which corrupted him into the servant he is. He represents Sauron's combat.
So basically, he was watching his friends who were fighting for Sauron and everything, or just fighting in the battles and dying in glory and everything, and wanted that.
Yeah.
So Sauron actually in the books also, was known as a very deceitful person. He was known as a giver, and he actually gave things almost like like an undertone.
Almost like a devil of sorts?
Yes, he was. He was essentially represented as a devil, so the hammer, he gave to the hammer, corrupted him.
Okay.
So.
And then finally, we have the Black Hand, also a Black Numenorian, leader of Black Captains, represents the sneaky and deceitful side of Sauron.
Right.
Also,
so
once again,
he's going to be that
devil.
guy you see on the cover with the hood and the glowing eyes. The Black Captains actually were referenced both in the books and the movies. But he's actually the guy that comes out in Return of the King at the Battle of the Gate when they're distracting. He was
that they cut out of the short version of the movie.
Version, right?
Yeah.
He was actually the Black Cat. He was one of the Black Captains.
Okay, I love that scene because that guy is just
so
terrifying looking.
Oh my God, it's
love it.
so intense.
Sad that they removed that from the main theatrical version.
Now here's another thing that I didn't like too. This is another added character.
Okay. Another main character, as you're saying, is Queen Marwen. She's a queen of the tribesmen of Num who have settled. Sorry, what was it?
Nirn.
Nirn?
Yeah.
Oh.
So Nirn is like that valley, like when you see Mordor, you think of it as like this, very, very barren wasteland.
Okay.
Well, the very open barrenness of it.
Yeah.
That was Nirn.
Okay.
So this is pre the barren wasteland part.
And those tribesmen settled into the grassy plains as farmers. Comes off as sneaky, makes friends with Celebrimbor by enticing him with more knowledge of the lore of the rings and his past. Although his motives are unknown, it seems that her motives will greatly impact the story and the game at some point.
Right. So she has this like undertone. She's she oversees these guys. The guys that the farmers of Nirn were actually farming crops and everything like that, supplying Sauron's troops.
Okay.
So you can tell that there's probably an evil side to her, and you don't really know her intentions.
Cool.
So in addition to the main storyline, though, which is going to be the bulk of the game, so let's not be honest. Once you're done the story, there's not really too much to do.
How long is the story? Do you know?
I didn't get into that. I didn't see that reported anywhere.
No one's complaining about it, as far as I say. So
no, not at all. which
probably
is
decent
great.
length.
However, but in addition to that, there are also a few other things you can do, such as outcast rescue missions and weapon legend missions. The outcast rescue missions are interesting. Basically, you'll hear of someone being trapped or enslaved somewhere, so you have to go and free them.
Okay.
And when you free them, then you open up their story, their side storylines.
Okay.
So every time you do that, I think there's like 12 or something like that. So there's 12 different people. So there's multiple side stories. And then on top of that, the really cool part is going to be the weapon legends. your weapons, your bow, your sword, your daggers can all be upgraded with different attributes. But once you upgrade certain parts of it, you can actually get weapon legends, which there are 10 mission sets, I believe it is. 5, there's 2 different areas, so 5 in one area, 5 in another. And when you do all 10 sets, you make a legendary weapon. So your sword, maybe let's say, has increased speed permanently or something like that. It's a special ability that it has. So, go ahead with 4.
The game is open world, covering vast lush areas of Mordor before it became the barren wasteland we've seen in the movies. And this kind of speaks to that. You can see it looks very much like Assassin's Creed right now, with like markers that you head towards. Has that open world feel in that regard. And it sounds like they might have even pulled literally from Assassin's Creed in some ways. This includes Udun and Nirn. Udun was the area in the Return of the King where we saw all the orcs holding up at that one point towards the end of the movie.
Right.
The gameplay is largely similar in style to the Batman Arkham games, which is not a bad thing.
No.
This means you need more finesse than just button mashing. Practice on your blocking. It's all about that timing.
Right, exactly.
That
It's going to be a little bit more free, more forgiving than that. It's going to be a perfect combo of Batman and Assassin's Creed, it looked like.
Yeah.
But it is a little bit more finesse than
Assassin's Creed for traversal, Batman
Right.
Arkham Knight for combat.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
2 great series to pull from. I mean, can't go wrong there.
As I said before, there's tons of upgrades to your abilities and your swords and bow, but also as a ranger, as a wraith. That's probably not a good idea.
Kristen's the only one that matters. It like highlights her.
But also as a ranger and a wraith, you can upgrade your abilities and weapon runes. So some of the abilities include being able to do executions. The one main one that you're going to use, and I'll get to this later on, is dominating your enemies to fight for you. And another one, one that's just going to be a goofy, fun one. You can cause the head of enemies to explode. So,
fun!
Right, your birthday party. Yeah. So people that know Halo know.
Yeah, the game is pretty brutal, actually.
Yeah.
More brutal than I was expecting, for sure. And as you're talking about with kind of taking over enemies, it seems like he kind of touches their head, right? And
so that's the dominate, and that's actually part of Nemesis mode.
Yes.
Now this is the biggest calling to this game. I mean, the game looks fun in general, but I don't think it would have been anything that would have garnered a 9.0 and plus rating.
Which we're seeing a lot of.
Right, which we're seeing a lot of high ratings. So the dominate ability, the Nemesis ability combines with that dominate. So basically Nemesis mode, there's various nemesis that you'll see, and actually when it comes down into that view that has all those Urks just in line, and you can select different ones. Those are the different nemesis that you'll get in the game.
Okay.
So not only will they have unique names, but they'll have unique appearances. They have a bunch of preset, faces, eye features, arms, body, torsos, and they'll just mix them around.
Okay.
So they'll be, unique. You'll be able to recognize them in the game. And they'll also have different strengths and ranks and power levels. So their power level could be over 9,000, which will be crazy.
Over 9,000?
Right, so I'm going to go back to probably about this point.
Okay.
Because they'll probably come into it again.
Yeah, it'll come up at some point, I would imagine.
So anyway, you'll have that, and each one is going to have its own playing style. It's basically like a Drivatar. Okay. In a way, but even more so in depth because they'll actually play their own game. So it's kind of like setting a game in motion for a non-playable character, which is really cool. And it's I'm trying to think. It's the closest relatable thing is kind of the Assassin's Creed when you can send your assassins on missions.
Okay.
And everything like that. So it's similar to that. But the Nemesis is affected by your actions. They can either fight you or run. And if you kill them, you get special runes that will help your player as well.
Okay.
Do you want to take over with the?
Yeah, sure. It's ridiculously intricate. You can see by the menu that opens up, there's a lot of different options there. Mm-hmm. The Nemesis may even know and dislike each other. Mm-hmm. They may even be seen fighting each other. Others serve the war chiefs and can appear with them. Yeah, this is kind of like something that you see a lot in Lord of the Rings, in the movies especially, is just like the nature of these creatures. They're just very They're very combative, and they all like hate each other and and just like kill each other for no reason.
What's even crazier is let's say Kristen's the main player, right? And me and you are. Okay. Let's say me and you are nemesis in the game. We're non-playable characters or anything like that. I will have my own name and everything like that. And let's say you're a captain, or let's say I'm a captain and you're a war chief. Yeah. Well, I can even go in and work for you and be your captain, but then plot to overthrow you. And then I can start attacking you. One Talion, the main character, is nowhere even near. I can start trying to attack you, and then your followers try to attack me. Let's say I actually do beat you. Now I'm the war chief. So they can actually rank up and go up. So it's pretty intricate. But the one thing that's pretty cool is you can actually dominate them. So that's the biggest part to it. So you're actually going to want to use that ability to dominate the orcs and make sure it's one that's either strong already or one that will, strengthen himself and go all the way up. And this will actually progress the game.
Okay.
So not only can these orcs themselves recruit other followers and everything like that, but you can have one of your orcs that you've dominated infiltrate the army and work its way up. So you can actually have him work up to even being a war chief at some point, even including the little tiny finesse as sending death threats. So let's say there's a
Thank you for the switch art.
an orc named Joe, or whatever. You can send Joe a death threat, and Joe will be like, well, fuck, and he'll beef up his recruits, beef up his armor. But even though he's stronger, you'll get extra stuff for beating him.
Okay.
So it's
intricate.
really intricate. It's really awesome. It's really unique. I'm definitely going to be playing this.
As you saw there, cut off that guy's head. Brutal combat system in many ways. A lot more brutal than I think a lot of people were expecting from the Lord of the Rings series, but this is kind of a little bit disconnected from that, and I think they were able to kind of take some liberties with it. So they just
it's a little disappointing that it breaks canon. I hate when they add stories that weren't there.
Yeah.
But they didn't change too much to where it would change canon at all. They actually made sure and worked with a lot of people that are true to the books and everything like that it would not break canon. It would actually add to it or at least be underseen.
Also, I must say that Gerard Butler should play this guy in the movie. Not even just here, but like in certain gameplay moments, his in-game model looks just like Gerard Butler. So I think they should get that guy. So yeah, that's it. But this comes out September 30th, I think, right?
Yeah, 2 days.
Yeah. Tuesday, guys. It's getting great reviews.
Yeah.
Much better than people were expecting. Kind of the dark horse of this month for sure.
Yeah,
Dark horse.
It was definitely one of those sleeper games.
Yeah. Which is cool. We're getting more and more of that lately. Whether it be indie or but that was almost a topic. You said whether it be AAA or indie, but those games that aren't on the radar are the ones that are kind of surprising people and really grabbing hold of attention after they come out.